Welcome to Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible, where I pull from Warhammer 40k lore to help explain biblical lore. And today, we're going to be going over the Minotaur's Loyalist Space Marine chapter. But before we get into that, take the wikis with a grain of salt. Also, I do a regular biblical video on Mondays, and then the rest is Warhammer 40k content. So, now that we got that out of the way, the Minotaurs is a Loyalist Space Marine chapter whose true origins and genetic lineage remain unknown. The Space Marine formation, or by this name at large in the Imperium today, appears to bear little resemblance to accounts of its past. The Minotaur's history beyond about 1,000 standard years ago has been deliberately concealed by the imperial edicts that even inquisitors can't circumvent with ease. The Minotaurs possess a reputation for being unusually xenophobic Astartes, even for the Imperium, that's saying something, as well as often unreliable combatants who do not work well with other Imperial military units. That there existed a Loyalist Space Marine chapter called the Minotaurs, created during the cursed 21st founding of the 36th millennium, is not widely contested in the Imperial record. But whether or not it is the same as the chapter bearing the name that took part in the suppression of the Macarian heresy in the opening decades of the 41st millennium, and the same chapter that would later go on to play a crucial and bloody role in the Badab War and the Orphean War, is not so certain. The origins of the Minotaur's chapter are shrouded in mystery. Once the chapter was thought to belong to the 21st, so-called cursed founding, and to be a virtual outcast amongst the ranks of the Adeptus Astartes. Descriptions of the Minotaurs of old are of a force of berserkers that made war with savage abandon and eschewed all contact with other military forces. The Minotaurs of today have either mastered their former curse, or else they are a different body of warriors entirely, merely sharing the same name and similar heraldry. The truth may never be known, even at the highest levels, for all data relating to the Minotaur's origins and the current status of their gene seed ties is sealed by the highest possible authority. That's unusual. The chapter is active in the prosecution of the Emperor's wars, seemingly deployed according to the pronouncements of the Senatorum Imperialis, and rarely, if ever, answering calls to war from any other imperial authority. Many of the operations in which the Minotaurs have been committed are notably in that they are against other Space Marine forces, often renegades or isolated elements within an otherwise loyal chapter that refuses to suppress its own. It appears that the Minotaurs undertake such missions with relish, perhaps testing themselves against the most potent enemy they can find, other Space Marines. Furthermore, on the rare occasion of the chapter serving alongside Brother Adeptus Astartes, the Minotaurs have displayed such an open contempt that all manner of recriminations have ensued, up to and including the fighting of duels and other low-level hostilities. My goodness, sorry guys. It is often reported that the Minotaurs are disdainful of all other subjects of the Imperium, and that they radiate a malign intensity that makes even the boldest Imperial general fearful of approaching them. One further detail marks the chapter as unusual. While they appear to adhere closely to the organizational dictates of the Codex Astartes, the Minotaurs almost exclusively operate as a complete chapter. While most chapters spread their forces across multiple war zones, only coming together as a whole for the most momentous of conflicts, the Minotaurs rarely detach smaller forces away from the main body. This makes the chapter a blunt instrument, but one capable of ripping through almost any enemy that dares to stand against it. This reality, combined with what appears to be a program of rapid psychological and genetic indoctrination of neophytes, means that the chapter is inevitably encountered as a single entity. Yikes. In battle, the Minotaurs are possessed of a berserk fury and are willing to sustain heavy losses to ensure victory. How they are able to maintain the rapid influx of aspirants and war machinery to replace those lost is another mystery. More than one Imperial agent has been found dead whilst researching such subjects. All right. Now we're getting into the chapter history. A Space Marine chapter of brutal repute, even within the Imperium of Man. The Minotaurs have long been the brunt of suspicion and acrimony by the other members of the Adeptus Astartes. Furthermore, there are those within the Ordo Hereticus of the Inquisition who believe the Minotaurs possess unknown ties to the High Lords of Terra. It's probably how they're getting their equipment, but I don't know. Whilst much of the Minotaur's recordings go back over the last millennium, have been ascertained through the sifting through myriad battle archives from across the Imperium. Much of their history before this point is not simply lost, but has been deliberately suppressed and sealed under the binding edicts laid down by the High Lords of Terra that even the authority of the Inquisition cannot circumvent. So it has been acknowledged that there was a Space Marine chapter of the name Minotaurs, created as the part of the 21st founding, the so-called Cursed Founding. But whether or not the chapter bearing the same name millennia later, during some of the most notable campaigns in the early 41st millennium, is the same, has become a subject of much debate amongst Imperial scholars. The Minotaurs of the 21st founding rapidly gained a reputation as a force whose ferocity and fury on the battlefield were all but unmatched. As time progressed, their tendency to shun the command of others and their erratic gene seed tied to the Magos and Vigilia of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Did I say that right? Inviglia of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Sorry. Combined with diverse curses and genetic corruption that seem to afflict other chapters of their particular founding, raising much darker suspicions about the nature of the Minotaurs and the secrets they might be hiding. So, if someone in the comments could tell me, this is the first time I've heard of this, the Magos Inviglia. If someone could tell me what that is in the comments, let me know. But anyways, the few fragmentary records that remain show the chapter's gene seed branded as chimeric. That's interesting. This, as blasphemous as it may now seem, may have indicated that the Minotaur's genetic material was either procured from a prohibited source, mixed with the heretical genetic pool, adulterated, or somehow tampered with during its creation. That's going to come to play in the biblical side here. But anyways, many Astartes of the chapters created during the 21st founding were found to have had their gene seed experimented on. The Minotaurs are more than likely to have been among those who had their gene seed tampered with or altered in some way as well. It is likely that the Minotaurs barely controlled battle fury and desired to shun those they should have called comrade was a result of some particular curse in their blood. But whether or not their affliction has been mastered or has mastered them, or they have finally mastered it remains unknown. Regardless, from the middle of the 38th millennium onwards, the Minotaurs all but slipped from the Imperium's records, their deeds and battle honors suppressed and expunged by a series of edicts and data purges. They're probably like secret of the secret, deep state forces, I guess you could say, or whatever you want to call that. But anyways, when the chapters reappeared millennia later, approximately 1,000 standard years ago, it was noted that they had a tendency to respond quickly and without question to a call of arms from the High Lords of Terra, even when the case was to castigate, apprehend, or even destroy formerly loyal Space Marines who had been declared renegades or had accusations of suspected transgressions lodged against them. This gave the Minotaurs a fell reputation as a chapter. In particular, the Ultramarines and its myriad successor chapters are known to bear considerably ill will towards the Minotaurs and will not fight beside them after the Minotaurs' near extinction of the Inceptors chapter at Euxine. I have a hard time saying that, guys. Anyways, I have a hard time saying a lot of words. Since its return to prominence, some Imperial scholars who have studied these reclusive chapters' actions have noted the discrepancies between the Minotaur's chapter of the present and of that of the past, both in terms of structure and behavior, and in manners of minutia such as livery. This speculation also pertains towards the Minotaur's gene seed, of which ties have been logged but remain classified at the highest level, the Era Indomitus. Soon after the birth of the Great Rift, the Minotaur's mobile fortress monastery came under assault by the 7th Plague Company of the Death Guard Trader Legion. While the Minotaurs were able to push the servants of the Plague God back, their celebration soon turned to desperation when they discovered that their gene seed stock had been tainted by Nurgle's corruption. In the wake of the turmoil affecting the galaxy, the chapter was forced to begin an imperial crusade across the stars to reach Terra and access the Adeptus Mechanicus purified gene seed reservoirs before the chapter wasted away. Interesting. So you can check out the noble campaigns there, or notable campaigns. So now we're going to move to the biblical side of things here. All right. So we're going to start in Psalms 22:13. Now this is believed to be a prophecy of Jesus. So read this. Verse 10, I was cast upon thee from thee. Thou art my God from the mother's belly. But not far from me, for trouble is near. For there is none to help me, or to help. Now pay attention to this part. Many bulls have compassed me. Strong bulls of Bashan have beset me round, mean they're circling him, right? They gaped upon me with their mouths. Cows don't really do that, or bulls, right? As ravening and a roaring lion. That's interesting. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted in the midst of the bow. But anyways, I want you to pay attention to the bulls of Bashan. So, bulls don't really roar like a lion. So what bulls are these? Right? And you could tell these are somewhat evil spirits, right? So, the Minotaurs, right? That's fine. You don't have to believe it or whatever, but it's very interesting. And if we know, the book of Enoch explains that these offspring of the angels, right, or the watchers, became the demons. And we're going to see here, this is Jasher chapter 4, starting in verse 18. And their judges and rulers, these are, the quote-unquote gods, okay, or the angels and all that. Their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men and took their wives by force from their husbands, according to their choice. And the sons of men, now pay attention to this. So it's not just the angels and humans, right? Now we have men doing some genetic manipulation here. Okay. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth, Minotaurs, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixture of animals of one species with the other, in order therewith to provoke the Lord. And God saw how the whole earth, and it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth, all men and all animals. So, this is why the flood happened. It's in Genesis 6 as well. So, I'm not just throwing stuff out there. So, there's cattle and all these beasts being genetically modified, right? Now, here's the book of Enoch, chapter 1. And all together, chapter 7, sorry, and all others together with them took unto them wives, each chose for himself one. And they began to go unto them and defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. Now this is drugs. Cutting of roots, drugs, hallucinogens and stuff like that, right? Pharmakia. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men, and when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against the birds, the beasts, the reptiles, the fish, and to devour one another, and to drink the red mist, we'll just say. But anyways, so there's some genetic manipulation going on here. And one thing I will say is that you won't fully understand the Bible until you understand Genesis 6. Right? And it brings a little more to it when God says, take out the men, women, children, the food, right? Everything. Scorched earth, right? Makes more sense now, doesn't it? Right? But anyways, Matthew 24:37. So, but as the days of Noah were, which Genesis 6, all this stuff, right? Enoch, all that, where this genetic manipulation was going on, saying, but as the days of Noah, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Well, we have that going on, don't we? We got GMOs, genetically modified foods. We're genetically modifying the genome now. I mean, it just keeps going, right? And it says, as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. And not only that, it says, for as the days they were before the flood, they were eating and drinking. What's this eating and drinking? Oops. Right here. And when they could no longer sustain the giants, they turned against them and devoured mankind. Okay, what's the drinking? Right here. And of course, alcohol and all that too. But this right here. The red mist. And then it says, marrying and giving in marriage. Oops, wrong one again. Right here. And they took unto them wives. These are the watchers, these angels. Took to themselves wives. So this genetic manipulation was going on. Okay. Deuteronomy 3:1. Now this is even more interesting. Then we turned and went up the way to Bashan. So we have the bulls of Bashan right here. Bulls of Bashan. Now we have this King of Og. And I brought him up before, but it's interesting. King Og of Bashan came out against us, he and all his people, to battle at Edred, or Edrei. Now, Deuteronomy 3:11. For only King or Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of the giants. That's interesting. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. It is not in Rabath of the children of or is it not in Rabath of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits. So a royal cubit is 2, and Og of Bashan is a king, but we'll use the regular cubit, which is like 1.5 feet from finger to your elbow or something like that, right? About 1.5 feet. So that's like 16 feet right there. But if you use the royal cubit, 15 to 16, somewhere around there. But a royal cubit would be 18 feet tall. So, interesting. Is this, anyways, just interesting. Yeah. Now, of course, every time I bring up the Space Marines, I got to bring up Jeremiah 51:20. I love this verse. But anyways, thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee I will destroy kingdoms. Okay. I always bring that up when I bring up the Space Marines chapter. So, all right, now we're going to get back into Warhammer 40K and the chapter beliefs. The Minotaurs seem to bear little respect for anyone or anything, save the Emperor of mankind and the High Lords of Terra, for whom they have displayed fanatic and unquestioning loyalty. This was noted by the participation in the Hexarchy rebellion on Terra during the Era Indomitus on behalf of a small cabal of reactionary current and deposed High Lords who sought to roll back the reforms of the resurrected Robo-Golem. They tend to show no love for civility or difference when dealing with the individual Imperial commanders and other Space Marine chapters, but they have been known to show pleasure in testing their skills against worthy foes. Some speculate that perhaps the Minotaurs considered their fellow Astartes as particularly worthy. In one well-recorded incident, the chapter nearly came to blows with the Genesis chapter after deliberately insulting the name of Marnius Calgar. Bloody conflict between them was only averted by the arrival of a fresh wave of orcs from the Octarian Empire. Given this predilection for testing themselves against their fellow Space Marines, it is unsurprising that the Minotaurs would appear during the Badab War. The Astral Claws and other successionist chapters would have certainly proved to be worthy foes. Some Imperial commanders have served with the Minotaurs since their reemergence have gone on record, hinting that this chapter is at the edge of madness or heresy, describing the defenses and security precautions taken by it, even when dealing with the supposed allies, or obsessive bordering on the paranoid, and even the number of enemies both within and without the Imperium. This is perhaps unsurprising. All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and end it there now. I want to thank you all for giving me a voice, and thank you for your time. So, anyways, you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching.